Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Baker from Steering Wheel Nation, and we are talking with a young man who, in the last 5 years or so, has made some serious history when it comes to the O'Reilly Auto Parts National Indoor Kart Championship. 17-year-old Cole Huard from Edgerton, Ohio. This is his claim to fame so far since 2020. He has won 6 of his last 9 elite class starts. He is the first driver ever to win 3 elite classes in a day. He has the most elite class wins since 2020, and I can name every one of them off. Here we go. 3,200 to win Elite Junior 3 Clone Light 2022. 3,200 to win Elite Junior 3 Clone Heavy 2022. 3,300 to win Elite Junior 3 Clone Light in 2023, 3,400 to win Elite Clone Light in 2024, 3,400 to win Elite Clone Medium 2024, and 3,400 to win Elite Clone Heavy in 2024. This young man is one of the hottest drivers right now who competes in Batesville, and he's coming back this year to add to this history. Cole Huard, I think there are probably some competitors that really didn't care to hear all those stats, and they're going to be coming after you this year. But I know you're ready because you have just had a great last few years. What do you attribute that to?
First off, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it. But there's so many different people that make it happen. I mean, first off, you got to thank my parents for getting me into racing, and then the people that come to the track. There's so many different people that are there, helping every single weekend. If they're not there, I have to run around, get to the grid, get back. It's just impossible. My grandma's one of those people that helps take care of that. She's, always keeping my dad in line, telling him we got to go, we got to get to the grid. And then there's, the pit help, and one of the people that's helped me the most in the last few years is Mike Dickerson. He came on board about 3, almost 4 years ago now. And, he helped not only my dad, but me as a driver. Every time I come off the track, he's easier to explain stuff to, since, he's raced for the past, I don't know how many years, past 40 some years. And, my dad's never raced a go-kart. So some of the stuff tell him, it's hard for him to, try to transfer into what he has to do with tires. So when I tell Mike what the go-kart's doing, he just instantly knows what I'm talking about, and he can help my dad with what we need to do. And I've helped communicate with my dad better with that in the past two or so years. He's, like I said, he's never raced a go-kart. So I tried to, when I get off the track, not just rush into things and be like, it's doing this or doing that. But I try to narrow it down and tell him, it's doing this. We need to focus on this. And, we've got better at that. The communication part of racing is one of the most important, if not important things, there is. But sponsors, they, Jason Deach with United Trailers, he gives us the trailer, gets us to the racetrack and home. There's just so many different people. Charge Racing Chassis, the go-kart. If you don't have the go-kart, you can't race. I mean, there's so many different people that just make it happen.
Well, now let's go back for a second. What got you started in racing? Obviously, I'm sure your dad had a lot to do with it, but you told me off camera that you played some stick and ball sports and then kind of came into racing maybe a little later than some.
Yep. Played baseball, basketball, and football for a while, and then had to drop basketball and football just because racing just takes so much time. And then I played baseball for quite a while, and my mom and dad kind of had a conversation if I was going to do travel baseball or racing, because my dad knew a few people around here that race go-karts, and we went to the go-kart track 1 or 2 times, and I liked it, and he liked it. He's always been a big NASCAR guy and racing guy his entire life. And I was about 7 or 8 years old, and my mom told my dad, if you don't start him now, he's never going to get to do it or never going to get good enough. So he decided to get a go-kart and started in beginning of 2017, I believe. And, it had a junior champ for about 3 years, and then got my first flat kart, I think my second, almost third year racing. And it's my 9th year, and that's where we're at for now.
Okay. And so have you kind of cut out all the stick and ball stuff now and just focusing exclusively on racing?
Yep. I think my last baseball year was 6th grade.
Okay.
And,
oh, wow.
It sucked quitting them, but I definitely don't miss, going to practice every day and doing all that. I much rather be in the shop and work on racing stuff. So especially that, and not going, it's my 3rd year. I'm a senior, so it's my 3rd year doing the online college stuff from home. So sometimes I'm at home, and then sometimes I go out to the college. And so I don't really see anybody from school, anymore. I have all my racing friends that I talk to anyway. So
what is your major in college?
Business management.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. So we know where you're going. And whether it's a motorsport related business or not, you'll have that training. And that's going to be come in handy for you, even if you're managing your own racing. Because obviously with sponsors and all that, especially if you're going to try to move up, that's pretty important to have that background. So good for you at 17 to be already doing that. So now tell us about who you race with. And you mentioned Mike earlier. I know who Mike is, but tell everybody else and talk about how that got started, because I hope you realize how blessed you are to be able to work with a legend like Mike.
Yeah, I think it was early to middle of the racing season in like 2021, and we were doing decent. And it was just me, my dad, my grandma that usually went to the races. And they had an insane race at Clay City down in Kentucky that year.
Okay.
And it paid like $20,000 for adults. And I was in junior 3 at the time, and it paid like $5,000.
Oh, wow.
And it was a 3-day show. And we did all right the whole weekend. But I remember in the pro race, the 5,000 win, I set pole and led about half the race and kind of got shuffled back. And after that weekend, me and Dad talked, and he kind of realized we needed someone to help us out, or be on a team to get us going.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you know who Barry Tomasevich is, but he promotes all kinds of different races. He helps the sport tremendously. And he knew Mike very well. I talked to Mike and got us, pitted with Mike and on board with Mike. And I think the first couple weekends, Mike kind of thought, because he'd helped some kids in the past, and I think he kind of thought we were just going to be like, show up, and my dad was going to go in there and be like, hey, you got a set of tires or whatever. But my dad, he's not like that. He likes to learn it his own way, and not just try to get stuff from somebody else. So he stayed in the trailer, asked Mike questions, tried to get as much information, use all of our own stuff. And I think by the end of the year, Mike was really impressed. I was a little shy with him for the first year or so, but now we can talk about anything. We called yesterday for an hour talking about stuff, and him and my dad call about every single day, every night when they're in the shop. And, this past couple of years, my dad's just, he, like I said, he doesn't, go in just asking for tires. And that's what I think Mike liked most about him, that he actually was interested in learning himself how to do it, so he didn't have to, because Mike's not always at the racetrack, but, 80% of the time he is there. So, the past year is my second year in all adult stuff. And, we've just, he's definitely my teammate. We help, he runs super heavy and heavy usually. And, we help each other out. And if he's doing something that's worked, working, my dad will try to do it, and just like that. That's just how it all comes together and works. If I go on the track, come off, tell Mike, this is how I'm kind of driving it, because all the tracks that we race on aren't what like Southeast racetracks are. They're definitely not as perfect. So you can do a little bit of different stuff at them. So I'll come in and tell them I'm, instead of just lifting, I'm trail braking, or I'm running a little bit off the bottom or all the way on the bottom. And, it definitely helps him, because, we just ask each other questions, try to do teammate things just so we can, get one too.
Sounds good. I mean, and it's a great relationship to have. Obviously, Mike has been around a long time, and he himself has written a fair amount of history at the ONIKC. So how many races do you run in a year?
Oof, that I run about every weekend from, we usually don't run in January or February, but March there might be a race or two, and then all the way, we'll have one or two rainouts in the spring, and then pretty good through all the summer, about every single weekend through the summer, down till, let's see, we haven't missed a weekend yet. We're racing this weekend, and then I think I don't think we're racing next weekend, and then back in, I don't know, I think 2 races in early November, and then there's Batesville, and then Daytona usually. Daytona's the only race in December because everything up here is, snowy, cold, freezing. And then same thing through January and February. January, February, about the only off months. But Dad was talking about going to, Southeast race, a couple of different races where it's a little bit warm up there. But usually, I mean, there's not really any months off except for December, January, February, and those still even have 1, maybe 2 races in the months. But it's wide open every week, all summer.
So let's talk about Batesville, because you obviously get a bunch of different experience, and I know you've won at a lot of different places, but let's focus in on the ONIKC for a minute. I know it wasn't instant success necessarily for you. You've been racing a fair amount, of years now, but talk a little bit about sort of your arc at Batesville from your first year to now. When was your first year, and just kind of walk us through your time running the ONIKC.
So our first year there was in 2020. And
it was? Okay. Yeah. I thought you'd been racing there before then. Wow.
No, 2020. And I just ran Junior 3 and a couple of Junior 2 races. And that would probably have been our like second or third Maxis race ever. So, Dad was still new to about everything, and we hadn't traveled a whole lot then, and we did semi-decent in the Junior 2 stuff. I mean, we didn't get any top 5s or podiums, but I got up, and I think there's 1 or 2 races, I got up into the top 5, and there was a couple of qualifying runs where I got up in there. I mean, I just remember then I was racing against like Graydon Hall and the Eisenshanks and
Hollywood.
Those type of people. And, Junior 3 has definitely evolved. It's a lot different now. I feel like when we used to run it, it was a lot older people. Like, obviously back then I was, probably like 12 years old.
Yeah, you were on the younger end.
There was a lot older people on the older side in Junior 2 and 3. And now, everybody likes to move up early, and now it's just smaller, younger kids. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just transformed, I mean. But 2020, we definitely struggled, but Dad wasn't too upset. It was just a learning experience. And we didn't go back in 21. That year we decided he wanted to take off Batesville and go to Daytona instead. And then we were back in 22. And 22 is, we had a really good year at 22. We ran Junior 3 and Cologne Light, I believe, and we actually won the Cologne Light race, the first race of the weekend. And and Then we won, I'm trying to think, the Elite Junior 3 race that day, and then the last Elite Junior 3 race on the second day, I believe. And Dad was, I mean, he was, even after the first day, just winning light, and then, Junior 3, he was just like, he was excited, and he was like, I don't even care how we do the second day. We've already won that. And I was like, well, I want to try to win, the next one.
I want more, Dad.
Yeah. And so we struggled a little more the second day, but, he put on what he thought was the best set and went out for Junior 3 and was all right. I was racing against, I think me and Cameron Lambert had about equal go-karts. And I got him on a restart. I got a good run. I got him on a restart, and then there was just a couple yellows, and then I think it ended under a yellow. But that really got us going from there as a tremendous weekend, especially for not running Maxis or racing against that level of competition yet. So
what did you find about Batesville was the most challenging? Had you run any indoor races prior to running Batesville?
Yeah, the main indoor stuff. I ran one concrete race before, and the only other indoor stuff was in Liberty in Kentucky. We ran a couple times, and then out at Emma Indoors in Missouri. Ran out there 2 times, I believe. And it's definitely, they're definitely similar. Indoor racing's all aggressive. You gotta qualify decent, but I think with Batesville, you just got to. It's for an indoor track. It's not really super small. It's definitely small, but it's definitely not like Emma or Liberty. And I definitely figured out, you got to qualify good before you got to think about, getting anywhere in the races. Because even if you qualify like 5th or 6th or whatever, you still have to get going early, because sometimes races will go green to checkered like last year, and then some of the races will just be caution fest, and you just have to get what you can bit by bit. And that's how all the Junior 3 stuff was. I feel like it was, there's definitely a lot of yellows, but last year and all the pro clone stuff, I feel like they did a pretty good job of running everything about all the way through, minimal yellows. But last year I got fortunate enough to qualify top 3. I think I qualified top 3 in every class except for one.
Wow.
Which was just crazy to think about.
It is, especially going back to one round now. I mean, it's now or never. You don't get a second shot. And I think that adds a lot of, obviously from a fan perspective, it adds a ton of drama and intrigue. But at the same time, I got to think for a driver, it is a nightmare, because again, the laps go quick. You're either on it or you're off it, and you're in or you're out, and that's it.
Yep.
You can't. And so for you to be able to be in the top 3 in every class but one, that really says a lot about the setup. Because obviously we know you can drive, but you have to have the cart underneath you to be able to run those laps. So you guys have sort of found something over the last couple of years that seems to really be working. Don't tell us what it is. But it's, it's just always interesting to watch, because I've seen this, before. You get a driver who has a bit of a streak, but I think yours is particularly interesting because it's elite classes. So,
right.
You're beating the best of the best, and you've done it at the junior level and on up. So, it's pretty incredible to watch what you've done, actually. And I wonder, have you sort of found a particular driving style at Batesville that has really helped you to be consistent?
Yeah, there's definitely, Batesville's definitely different than, you got to drive it different than everywhere else. Just the way it's always a little different each year. Some years have a little more banking to them, and then, just the dirt's always going to be a little bit different. But,
sure.
I've definitely driven that place a lot different than anywhere else. And you got to be really up on the wheel and get all you can get. Cause I think it was only two laps in a qualifying session. They take 10 and then re-qualify and take 10 more. Right.
Yep.
And I think last year's the first year they did 5 laps and just 20. Yeah. Which I actually like more just because I feel like it saved time, and I just like 5-lap qualifying better just because you can get, you don't, if there's a spin, I mean, sometimes there's spins, and then you can just,
you get a little more
just get
time.
more laps.
Get more laps. Yeah.
I just like the 5-lap thing better just because you could get a couple good laps, and then like your last lap or two, you can just really push it and see what you can get out of the go-kart. But yeah, no, you definitely got to drive it different there. You got to just get really up on the wheel in qualifying because, like I said earlier, the qualifying is so important there, just as anywhere else. I mean, if you can start out front and get away from the mess, then you're good. Even if you don't have the best go-kart, if you can just stay away from people, then you're going to be good. I mean, you just got to be so up on the wheel. I've talked to so many people there, when they're just sitting in the stands watching, and just like one of my other teammates, Colton Reichner, he raced with us last year, and he ran, the junior stuff. And I'd sit with him and his dad there. And when me and his dad were talking in one of his qualifying sessions, we were right into 3, and I was like, there's that cone there, and he just needs to drive it in here and just get off. And I mean, it's different because it's restricted stuff versus, me racing unrestricted, but needs to get in, and it's just tight right in the middle of the center, and it's sometimes got a little bit of reverse banking to it. So you just need to drive it in and then get off, and then just really drive it off the corner. And, I just like helping him because, I can see potential in people, just how Mike sees, potential in me, and he wants to see me get really good because he knows there's more there to get. That's how I see with like Cole and then other people that I help. I mean, I just, I don't like to see like wasted potential by any means. I like to see them get all that they can get out of it. And yeah, Batesville definitely, whether it's qualifying or the race, you just got to really get up on the wheel and focus. I mean, you got to be smooth and calm, but you also just have to, you have to be high alert. It's indoor racing. All indoor racing's like that. You just got to be high alert, and you got to know the situation. And Batesville, Batesville, they say you can start on the backstretch. A lot of people don't pay attention. You don't think of that. But when you get to a late race situation and you're on the backstretch, you can just hammer it and go and just catch a bunch of people sleeping. And then that's just, that's so important there. You have to be very high alert at them racetracks.
Yeah, well, and the indoor track in and of itself just lends itself to close quarters racing. So I feel like while you do have to be aggressive, you've also got to have a line where, because you can get too aggressive and then you end up taking yourself out. And that's why I feel like we have some of the caution fests, just because, especially in the junior classes, the kids just get too aggressive and they're focusing too much on pushing and contact rather than, passing each other clean. But you've just done a great job over the last several years. It's been fun to watch. And I really, and I got to give Hayden Benson, my cohort in crime there in the announcer's booth, my protege. Hayden is the one that pointed the stat out, and I said, man, we got to talk to Cole because he's one of the hottest drivers in recent years at Batesville. And it's interesting that you really didn't pay attention to that and didn't seem to be aware of how well you've actually done. And I think that says a lot for how focused you are on just being in the moment rather than kind of worrying about, the records or whatever else. You're just trying to win races. But at the same time, now that you know that, how does that feel when you realize that you've done all this in the last few years and honestly set some records here?
Like I said, it's just, I always knew after Batesville, after last year, at the track, I try to stay, calm and focused. And then afterwards I realized, that was, 3 of the elite ones in the same day and 4 wins in the same day is just crazy. Yeah. And, like I said, I didn't really think a whole lot about it. I knew it was really good. And then you tell me all those stats, and I'm just like, just sit here and I'm just, grinning myself that it's a lot crazier than I think. And, I just, like I said, I'm a very, very calm and mellow guy. So it's hard to tell that if I'm excited or not, but I'm definitely pumped up and excited about it. There's so much, I'm glad I could make it all work, because there's so much that goes into it months and months ahead of Batesville.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Dad's favorite race, just because he likes indoor and he likes, drivers tracks where you got to get up on the wheel and you have to actually, drive it. But it's definitely, I'd say, his, favorite weekend of the year. And, it's, like I said, it's still insane to hear all those stats, and just like here where my first year at Batesville, not getting any top fives and struggling all weekend. And then you go to last year and you win all those races. I race against Shay, and I mean, there's he's won more races than I can even think of. And there's just, to outrun him in about every race and just race against him is just insane to think about. I grew up, I looked at him in like Yarborough, and I was racing against him, and
Austin,
they're just, I just grew up watching them and just thinking they were just like the coolest guys ever. And I was like, man, I just need to focus and be like them someday. And then to be racing against them and actually winning against them is just, mind blowing.
Well, got a chance to add to it this year, and we're looking forward to, obviously, to seeing you at Batesville coming up at the end of November. Before we let you go, who do you want to thank? Who helps you make it all happen, man?
Like I said, parents, my mom and my dad, my grandma, grandpa. They're, always, my parents getting me into it. If they weren't here, wouldn't be talking to you right now. So have to thank them. And then my grandma, she comes with us about every weekend. She hates to miss it. She'll miss one or two, I think, a year, and just she hates it. And she loves going to the track. She's a big talker, and she helps us, keep on track. Like I was saying, she's going to the grid, coming back, telling us how much time we have, which is really important. If Dad's in the trailer and I'm working on the go-kart and he can stay in the trailer and not have to, run back and forth and,
sure,
lose time on what he's working on with tires. That's super important. And Mike Dickerson, him helping me as a driver. I mean, I wouldn't be here if he never came on board helping me out. Jason Deach and United Trailers, giving us trailers that we need. There's, when we first started, if you see a few of his trailers at the track, and now there's just so many different kinds and amounts of trailers that you see at the track with United on them or Jason Deach on them. And it's just amazing to think about. If you don't have the sponsors and people you need, then, you can't go anywhere. Like I said, you might not have all the money in the world, or, might not just be loaded rich, but if you have sponsors and people that can help you make it happen, and, you communicate with them and they put good word into somebody else. And, if you can have connections with people and the right amount of connections, you just can almost go anywhere. And Jason's been here since day one, and he's really helped us out. And then, Boomer Hawk with Charger we've had as our main go-kart for the past 5 or 6 years, I think. And there's so many connections with him. Every time we race on the coast, all kinds of help from him and other people at Charger. I mean, Mike's with Charger. Me and him are both became dealers, and we just he's been one for probably 10, 15 years, and then I just became one, this year, just because I want to learn.
Good for you.
Learn how to not only get better at working on the karts, but, if I sell them, I can get more connections with people. And, if we're on them, I like to help other people out, because without people, people like to complain about these people at the racetrack and these people, but without people at the racetrack, there is no race. I mean, you have to have,
that's right.
You have to have people, no matter if you're fast or you're slow, you have to have racers. I mean, you can't have 15 people in a race and then complain about 5 fast people, doing dumb stuff like this, and then 5 slow people. Because if you complain enough and wreck them enough and just they'll get tired and they won't show up, and then you won't have anybody racing.
That's right.
So you have to have, you always have to have people at the racetrack. And also earlier this year, Darren Brooks, he came on. He's been racing for a while, and he came on and helped us. And he's been pitted with us about the whole summer. And I've tried to help. He's got a kid that races green and purple plate, and I've tried, helping him. He's one of the junior drivers that I like to help at the racetrack. I'll sit down with him and we'll watch races and, talk to him about when I come off the track and get ready to go on the track, talk to him about what needs to be done here, there. And I love talking to Darren. He's a great guy. I mean, he helps us. Last weekend he was racing, but still we ran 5 classes, and he's over in our pits, wrenching on stuff, helping us.
Yep.
I mean, people like that, they come on board and help make everything happen it's just awesome. Best One Tire, they, did not only cars, but the trailer and the RV. You have a few blown tires throughout the year, and we had 4 or 5 this year, which is a lot.
Wow.
And, we take it into them, and they get them changed and get them right back out. And, we'll have one blown and take it in the next day, and it'll come right back out and be right back on the road the next weekend. And, people like that get us to the racetrack. Jason has a trailer. If something happens, take it to Best One, get on the road, get to the racetrack. Very important. Suburban Golf Club, they came on board 2 or 3 years ago, and they've just really contributed. This year they just keep contributing to the race team, and I actually like doing a little bit of golfing myself. I've slowed down a little bit with the weather, but earlier this year and during the summer I did a lot of golfing. I went down to Myrtle Beach area where Charger's at, mainly because
nice.
They're there, and then we go down there with Mike and get some go-karts. And we were there probably 4 or 5 different times, maybe even more this summer. And, I do some golfing when I'm down there. It's always nice weather down there. They got, a lot of nice courses. So
yeah,
when I get free time, I like to do some golfing. But Excalibur with the motors, they about 2 or 3 years ago as well, came on board, and that's what Mike's always run. So we kind of switched over, and that's what we've been running for the past few years. And it's definitely some of the best power there is. Luke and Brandon always working super long days. I don't know how they do it. They're always showing up at the racetrack with the motors, and they're super busy. So I got to thank them. Logan Parker with Parker Excavating, he's definitely helped. He's with the motor deal, and he has a kid as well. And I like talking to him every weekend I see him. He's a real funny kid. And he, like I said, I love talking to the junior drivers because when I was their age, I liked when the older people talked to me because it made me feel somewhat important. And, you can learn a lot by listening to people. So
absolutely.
I like setting an example and talking to them. And it's just, it's just how it goes. I mean, I was 11, 12, and that's what they're at right now. And I had people my age and even older talk to me. And when I stand there on the fence, they come up, talk to me, it'd make me think, like I'm actually doing something here. I'm really important. Apparently, if Mike's going to come up to talk to me before I actually knew who it was. And, I just like talking to them, making them better. If I see potential in them, then I like helping them. So there's like 30 or 40 more different sponsors. There's so many different people that help out. I mean, JoJo and Mo Miller, they always come to the track and help us out every weekend. Alex Guerin, Braden Smith, they're there for the past couple weekends helping us out. There's, like I said, if you can't have people at the racetrack helping you out and you're running 7 classes, then
that's hard.
Are going to be screwed. And so, all those people that I just named, they're tremendous help, helping us get to the track and get home. And, you cannot do it without your sponsors. So.
That's for sure. Well, you are a tremendous young talent, Cole, and it's been fun to watch you and the success that you've had over the last several years at the ONIKC, and we look forward to seeing you back again for the 35th annual O'Reilly Auto Parts National Indoor Kart Championship at the Batesville Civic Center, Batesville, Mississippi, on November 28th and 29th. And if you want to get pre-race pit passes, go to any O'Reilly Auto Parts store. Just go to the back. It is a part number in their system. So go ahead and just purchase your pit pass there and then bring the receipt with you to the racetrack, and you will be set to go. Until next time, when we talk with another key personality from the ONIKC, I'm Tom Baker. A reminder, for more great content about motorsports, steeringwheelnation.com, and catch our TV show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock on Power Tube TV. That's 8 o'clock everywhere, wherever you're sitting. When it's 8 o'clock where you are, it's when it comes on. And just go to watchpowertubetv.com and then look up their podcast channel. They've also got an app. We're on Roku. We're on Samsung, Amazon Fire, all of that good stuff as well. So until next time, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching.